All right, this week we are into another one of our vintage German lenses. This is something from the past that, as a company, as you can see, Meyer-Optik Görlitz. Forgive the terrible German accent, but the company was folded up into a conglomerate of other companies, given a single brand name in 1960. Basically, and it went on to, in a few years later, become Pentacon. Everybody knows that name, right? So, these lenses had their heyday as individual companies, and then, as I said, got folded up into the East German branded optics company called Pentacon. So this is the Meyer-Optik Görlitz Trioplan. And it is a 50mm 5.9, and as you can see, if I take the it's an Exacta to NEX adapter, take this off of here, you can see this little thing. I mean, look at that. Look how cute that is, right? That's a pretty tiny lens. It's all aluminum, and what it's famous for more than anything else is its soap bubble bokeh. And so we'll get into that. So let's take a look at this lens. So come on down and spend some time with me, and we'll get to know this little lens a little more intimately. All right. Here I am, Vietnam. Rain is always coming down. So this is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. So this week we're looking at going a little flashback in time again to another one of our vintage lenses. We have the Meyer-Optik Görlitz 50mm 2.9 Trioplan. You can see the adapter here, which is an Exacta. This thing came in Exacta, Altics, and M42 mount. This is the Exacta version. It was the adapter here is about almost the same size as the lens itself, as I showed you in the intro. It's a pretty tiny lens, all aluminum, very light. My last video we talked about pocket portrait lenses. This one is just an all-around pocket lens. I mean, for a 50mm, you can stick this in your pocket and off you go, and you probably wouldn't even know you had it there because it's so light. I mean, if you compare it to my, this is my 50mm Leica, and look at the size of that.
Size does not matter. It's what you know how to do with it.
I mean, this is a pretty small, or not small, but it's a compact 50mm for being a 1.4. Well, even though this is 2.9, it's obviously a smaller aperture, but still, look at the size of that. And yet, for a 50mm, it's a very effective lens for what it does. So anyway, going back to this particular lens itself, it is Meyer-Optik Görlitz, and this particular lens was produced between 1952 to 1960, so it had an 8-year run, so to speak, and it kind of lasted until the end of Meyer-Optik Görlitz's lifespan, I guess, because it got folded up into another optics kind of conglomeration made up of a few different other companies, all at the same time. And this was in, again, 1960. As you know, after World War II, East Germany was occupied by the Soviet Union. And so they, the East German government at the time thought it, for whatever reason, thought it best, I guess, that they conglomerate all these things into a single optics company. And it was called VEB Camera Works. And of course, in German, it's called something else, but if you translate it, it comes out to Camera Works, kind of like BMW, Bavarian Motor Works. But BMW is different in German. But anyway, so in 1960 is when that happened. So that's when, you know, the Meyer company went away. And, you know, a few years later, 1964, the name again changed to VEB Pentacon. And then 4 years after that, 1968, is when the name Pentacon, you know, kind of took over as the company brand. And, you know, there's all kinds of Pentacon lenses out there now, millions and millions of them. I've got a number of them here. You've seen them in past videos that I've done. But this particular lens, you know, was kind of the last of the dying breed of the Meyer-Optik Görlitz until just recently. You know, in this century, there was a you know, a crowdfunding source that, you know, bought the rights to use the Meyer-Optik Görlitz name with the Trioplan and whatnot, and put out a more modern version, but with the same design. So it's basically, you know, who is that? Obama said you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. So this thing redesigned into a modern body is still the same lens. It's the same optics, the same formula. You know, three elements and 3 groups. Very simple formula, but they put definitely today's price tags on them. You know, like a single lens is, you know, $1,500 or $2,000, you know, depending on which one it is. But if you look on eBay, you can buy the 3, you know, reborn lenses again. I guess the 35, the 50, and the 100 millimeter for you know, $7,000. So these things were really overpriced, and I'm sure a lot of people who bought them probably realized that after a while and said, oh, well, that was a lot of money to put into this for not getting very much. But you can buy this one, the exact same lens I have right here on eBay for, you know, today's price. I just looked yesterday, was $130. I think I got this one for like $60 or $70 on eBay as well. Again, there's millions of these things out there. So they're economical, right? You know, who needs to spend, you know, $1,500 on something that you can buy for you know, under $150 in that regard. So anyway, you know, what really made this lens famous, besides being so small and lightweight, you know, was in today's world, you know, we look at the quality of the out of focus background, and that quality has a nickname called bokeh.
Rich, smooth, buttery bokeh.
And the type of out of focus background that this lens can produce is, again, what's classified as soap bubble bokeh, because they're big round soap bubble balls. And you know, again, that's more of a modern phenomenon that everybody's, you know, crazy about the bokeh. Back in the day, in the 1950s, actually that wasn't looked upon favorably. It was more of an annoyance than anything else. Like, oh man, look what happened to the background. Look at the giant balls that are back there. Ew! But you don't get that with every shot, and I'll show you, you know, I'll show you samples of that. As usual, I take pictures of my son Dylan. Aww. So I have photos of him, and you don't see any soap bubble bokeh in the background because it's not under those right conditions. You have to have the subject close to the lens, and you have to have your background have spots of light, whether they're, you know, artificial light or whether it's sunlight coming through tree leaves or reflecting off of water or whatever it could be, creates that soap bubble bokeh. But I'll show you samples of that as well. But so don't go thinking just because you're using this lens that you're going to get soap bubble bokeh all the time. You know, it has to be under the right circumstances. Just like other vintage lenses with the swirl and everything. You have to have the subject close to you, and the background, again, relatively close, but not too far away, not too close, just right to get that swirl happening. But anyway, these vintage lenses, just like all manual focus, and they're great for mirrorless, just like this mirrorless camera, or mirrorless, or my Canon mirrorless. the SLRs with the mirror coming up and down. This one doesn't really have a large protrusion in the back, so you may not experience the mirror slap with this one. But there are a lot of other lenses which do. The rear element comes back too far, and the mirror in the SLR would end up hitting it, damaging your mirror. But with the mirrorless, of course, you don't have that, but you have the the size of the adapter being what it is, because it has to make up for that difference, of the interior design of the original cameras. The distance between where it was mounted, taking in consideration the mirror and then the sensor, because you don't have that now. Mirrorless cameras are a lot smaller than they used to be, and so therefore, as you can see by the symbol here, where the sensor is actually mounted, you need that distance made up for by the size of the adapter. So anyway, that's why the adapter is so big for this small little lens. Anyway, they're great for mirrorless, they're great for APS-C, and of course you do the math, depending on whether it's 1.5 or with the Canon 1.6 times. For APS-C, you end up with a 75-ish millimeter equivalent, your depth of field, or the field of view, I should say, sorry. And, with Micro Four Thirds, you end up with 100 millimeter field of view equivalent, to a full frame. So, so again, something this small could end up on a Micro Four Thirds on a Panasonic or Olympus, getting you some distance out there, or again, good for portraiture and whatnot. But again, for soap bubble bokeh is what it's famous for. It's it's sharp enough. It's obviously not crystal clear sharp at wide open, but like all these vintage lenses, you stop down to f4. This jumps from 2.9 to f4. 5.6, there is no half stops in between, but it's the strength of this little baby is the because of the blades. There's 12 aperture blades, rounded aperture blades, so it maintains that. Even the bokeh at f4 and whatnot is still going to have rounded bokeh balls and things like this. So again, there's a lot going for this little guy, and so that's why it's worth worth that $130 or $100 or whatever price you can get it at, because it's not expensive. It's best for short distance photos. It's not the greatest for landscape, just because of its design. Being a triplet, it doesn't have the greatest field of view when you're looking at depth in that regard. So it's better for short distance photos and whatnot. So some of the specs on this, as I said, is 3 elements and 3 groups. It's close focus distance is 60 centimeters, which is 23.6 inches. So again, it's relatively close. It's not it's not like the rangefinders and stuff, which have a meter or 70 centimeters or anything. So it's a little closer than that. But as I just said, 12 aperture blades, and they're rounded, so which is nice. It maintains that circular out of focus background on points of light and whatnot. It's very nice. It's very light, as I told you already. It's aluminum, so it's lighter than just about any of the lenses that I have here. It's only 80 grams, which is 2.8 ounces. That's pretty light. Like I said, you can keep this in your pocket and even forget that it's there. It's kind of ideal in that regard. It has a relatively long focus throw. Going from it's also backwards. Focus is backwards, and same with the aperture ring. It goes backwards compared to a lot of other lenses out there, like my Leica, for example. The 1.4 is on the left end of the aperture ring versus this 2.9, which is on the right end, so it goes the opposite direction. And same with your focus throw. So, you know, again, if we're at close focus, or sorry, if we're at infinity, and then to get around, you would go 1, 2, almost. So 1.5 or 1 3/4 even, just to get around all the way. So that's a long focus throw. It's great, obviously, for getting in, fine-tuning your focus, which of course with today's cameras can be done through focus peaking, or what I like to do is magnification. I like to magnify in on as close as I can to my subject so I can fine-tune the sharpness. You know, since portraiture is my favorite anyway, try and get into that eyeball as much as possible. So anyway, those are the you know, the specs on this thing. It's, you know, it's got a good reputation. You know, it's decent colors, decent sharpness, contrast is okay. You know, but you can take care of all that stuff in post anyway if you're using you know, software to edit your photos. So anyway, no complaints from me about this thing. It's a nice, sweet little lens. As I said, if you're you know, in the market for something with character, as they always call it, then this little guy here has got some character. It's worth that. It's worth the cost to get one, and even get a couple. You know, it's cheap enough too, and maybe you can Frankenstein a perfect one together if you got some problems with one of them that you have. So again, it's, you know, it's tiny, and it's fits well into everything. So
That's what she said.
let me do my usual, get you a shot of the end of my, you know, I use a Canon M50 to film these videos. So let me focus in on the end of the lens, and you know, try to show you its sharpness wide open. Maybe I'll stop down to f4 or 5.6 to show you if it improves its sharpness from there. So so again, magnification is what I use. So let me try to get as sharp as I can in here. All right, right there is pretty good. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, so that was at 2.9. That's f2.9. So let me up to f4, and let me slow down my aperture, or my shutter a little bit to maintain my maintain the brightness. And let me again get close up to see if I get a little bit sharper with the f4. Yeah, it actually looks like it definitely did. So 1, 2, 3. All right, and let me stop down again, just to again maintain that brightness. Let's move to 5.6, and again, I focus in as close as I can to see if I maintain that sharpness, which I have. 1, 2, 3. All right, and again, it's great. I didn't need to touch the focus ring at all for those three shots, because once I nailed it in, there is no back focus, nothing shifting at all. It maintains its line of sight, so to speak. All right, so that was. Let me put this back up to 5, just for shooting pictures of Dylan. And speaking of Dylan, so let me, you know, since you've seen, you know, what the sharpness can be, and again, I'm, you know, 1.5 meters, or, you know, 5 feet away from the camera lens that's filming the video, so you know there's not a great distance between us here. But here's some shots of Dylan. And here's some shots of Dylan at, I don't know, let me do 5.6 just to show you the sharpness of that at 5.6. And then let me show you some photos since I talked about the fame of the soap bubble bokeh. And of course I don't have that here in my apartment and we're doing lockdown, so I'll show you some previous photos using this lens. So this is what the soap bubble bokeh can look like. All right, so what do you think of that, right? Looks pretty sweet, isn't it? For, again, nice character. So definitely, is that worth checking out? I would say so for that price. You know, $130 if you bought it today on eBay. And that's for a nice copy. You can get one a little beat up. I tend to do that anyway. Like mine, the aluminum's not that shiny. For people who like the bling bling of the lens that they buy. If they're buying metal lens, they like it to be all shiny. But I don't really care. I like the performance, more important to me. So yeah, $130, or you can find them cheaper. Like I said, I bought mine a lot cheaper than that. And for something like that cheap, you can use it for a number of different things. It's a great little travel lens, you know, if you want something to throw on, you know, a small camera to take around. You know, as much as this A7R2 is not that big, my Canon M50 is even smaller footprint. You know, it's a smaller body. So, you know, again, putting that on my Canon M50 is going to give me a field of view of a 75-ish, 75 to 80 in that range. Field of view, which is a good travel rig. So it'd be great for you know, taking to the beach or whatever, and up to the mountains, and you know, you're not hauling around a great bag full of gear and everything else. So it's good. It's a good little top pocket find for those who watch the what is that, Oak Island treasure hunt on Discovery Channel or History Channel, whichever channel that's on. Top pocket find, you know, is a good name for this thing. So anyway, that's my Meyer-Optik Görlitz 50mm 2.9 Trioplan. It's worth it. It's worth the price, just for the character of the lens itself. So other than that, I want to give a little plug for my, speaking of software that I use to edit my photos, even though I noticed my screensaver has run its course and decided to go to sleep. But anyway, I use Luminar and Luminar AI. You know, I purchased both. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. But you know, I recommend it, you know, for those who are in the market for some software to edit their photos. There's all kinds of free stuff out there, but the free stuff is kind of limited. The you know, the granddaddy of them all, that most photographers, if you're going to be a professional photographer, you have to get Lightroom, right? Lightroom that comes with you know, Photoshop and whatnot, but it's a lot more expensive. If you get the full package, you know, there's monthly fees and things you have to pay. Luminar and Luminar AI, you just buy it outright, and it's like $80-something. Last time I looked, it was $89. And it's yours for life. You pay that one price, it's yours, you download it. You upgrade as they upgrade, you know, to, you know, work out any bugs or anything like everybody else does. And the only time you would have to buy another one is if they do a full-blown version change. So like, you know, Luminar's on the 4th version right now, Luminar 4. But if they went to a Luminar 5, you know, you would have to pay as if you were buying, you know, a new package. But because you're already an owner and you're part of their club, you would get a discounted version of that and probably pay $30 or $40 for that. So anyway, you know, don't quote me on that. I'm not sure exactly how much you would pay, but anyway, it would definitely be cheaper than buying the whole thing all over again. But as I said, it's yours for life. You download it, you put it on, what is it, three to 5 computers, and you know, again, it's yours to do whatever you want with. You never have to upgrade anything. You can keep it the way it is. But it has great bells and whistles, just like Lightroom. You know, it has all the same sorts of things that you could do with it. So anybody who edits their photos knows what I'm talking about anyway. I don't have to go through explaining all the sliders and features and the bells and whistles that go along with it. So other than that, all I really want to ask of you is that you support my channel, help get me out there in the world. You know, we're up to what, 100 or 380 something today. Remember, I record these in the past, so you're seeing them in the future, but as of right now, we're 383 or something like that. So help me out with that and subscribe to Modesty Photography. And if you got 2 accounts, subscribe again. Why not? Give me 2 if you could do it. And 3rd time's a charm though, right? Subscribe. Give me a 3rd subscription. And you probably can't do that, but anyway, just in case. And then of course, as the algorithm likes, thumbs up. They like, you know, to get likes out there. So even if you hated the video, don't hit the thumbs down, hit the thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up so we can show the thumbs up girls. Because they seem to like Dr. Scott, right? So anyway, this was Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. And, oh, forgot one thing when I was talking about Luminar. Click below, hey, click below, you'll save $10. So as I said, it's 80 something, so why not pay 70 something, right? Yeah, so you save $10 if you click that link below, and I get a little kickback from that too, which is nice. Who doesn't like kickbacks, right? So stay safe out there in the COVID world. Wash your hands. Wear your mask if you're going into crowded public places, which you shouldn't be doing anyway with this Delta thing, because it's kicking ass pretty good.
Shit, okay, don't.
But maintain that social distance and just stay safe, all right? Stay COVID free and come back next week and we'll have something else to take a look at, all right? So take care, have a great day, have a great weekend, and that was pretty much it, I guess, right? All right, so bye-bye.
Here I am, Vietnam. Rain is always good.